Welcome to the Pursuing Points podcast, where it's all about the pursuit of credit card points and miles today so that you can travel the world free of charge tomorrow. And now, your host, Peter Foti.
Gone. I had recorded an episode in January, but then last week we sort of made our re-entrance to the podcasting community, and here I am again with another episode. I don't expect to produce one for the next 2 weeks, so hopefully this will tide everybody over, but I have plans of producing a lot more after that. Before I get going, I want to call out a couple things. One, so pursuingpoints.com is sort of the companion website to this podcast. I publish articles from time to time. I have some other folks who have reached out and are interested in publishing articles, so those get posted. And the site recently underwent a facelift of sorts. So it's been redesigned. The numbers on it look good as far as people seem to be spending more time on it than they were before, so that's awesome. If you haven't checked it out yet, please do, pursuingpoints.com. And if you're interested in writing for the site, I would encourage you to do so. You could feel free to email me or use the Contact Us page. That'll come to me as well, and we can work out something, right? So check those things out, and then lastly, I just want to, I mention this every couple of episodes. The listenership is fantastic for this podcast. I'm very appreciative of the support people have shown. One thing I do want to call out is that if you find that you do enjoy the show and you think that it's helpful, please leave an iTunes review. It helps as far as getting more, promotion within iTunes without us having to pay for any money necessarily, because as you get higher and higher rated, things show up higher and higher in the search, and you get more listens, which is awesome. So that's all of the bookkeeping stuff out of the way, and now we can turn our focus to today's topic, which you may already know is I'm going to discuss the SPG, or Starwood Preferred Guest, and Marriott Rewards merger. Of course, I'm referring to them by way of their elites programs, because that's really what we're going to spend most of our time talking about. But for those of you who don't know, back in 2016, Marriott and SPG decided to merge. And it's sort of been a long time coming for what the new program would look like, the combined program with the two entities. But that information has been made available. It has been available for some time now. If I was a better podcaster, I probably would have done an episode about this back in April when they first announced it. But this show is not about me breaking the news, right? I don't have the relationships that some of the other websites do, so I'm not really in a position to do that. What it's more about for me is providing my take and then helping to answer questions and guide people throughout the process if they feel that they need it. So let's jump right into it. Basically, the first thing that we want to talk about is that there's going to be a single unified loyalty account. Okay, so where before you would have had multiple accounts with like Marriott and SPG and Ritz-Carlton, now you're just going to have a single program. Okay, and the first question that you probably have, if you don't already know the answer to it, is what's going to happen with my points at the various programs? Okay, so your Marriott account is not going to change at all, nor is your Ritz-Carlton account. Of course, that'll be converted, but the point value will remain the same. So if you have 50,000 points in Marriott right now, you will continue to have 50,000 points after this change takes place, which, by the way, the change will take place August 1st, 2018. So right now, the recording of this podcast, we're June 24th, so at the end of June, we've got a little over a month, but come August 1st is when all of these changes will take effect. For the points that are in your Starwood account, those are going to be transferred to Marriott at a value of 1 to 3. Meaning, if you currently have 50,000 Starwood points, congratulations, that's a nice balance. Now your new Marriott balance will be 150,000. Okay, and of course, on paper, I suppose it sounds like you're getting more for your money, but as you'll see in terms of like redemptions, it's basically the exact same. So you're not actually gaining anything in that case. It's just that with the new program, the way it's set up, SPG points are valued at 1 to 3. So if you have $50,000, come August 1st, you'll have $150,000 in your single Marriott account. The next thing on the list is that there's going to be a single 8-category award chart. To be honest, I'm not going to get into the award chart all that much during this podcast because I really want to focus on some of the new credit cards as well as some of the other benefits that they provide. If you're someone who's interested in this, I would encourage you to take a look at it. Of course, they have bands for things like standard, peak, and off-peak times of the year. I personally, and I've said this on various podcasts before, I'm not a huge hotel person. That's not to say I don't stay in hotels, but it generally comes to be that like when I'm traveling and sometimes I stay with friends or maybe I'm traveling with a bunch of friends and we get a single Airbnb. I'm not a road warrior by any definition of the word. If I do stay in hotels, I would say it's somewhere on the number of 3 to 5 nights a year. And generally when I'm doing that, it's not part of like the vacation, so to speak. So in other words, if you're traveling to, I don't know, somewhere international and you're staying in like a 5-star hotel and that's like part of your vacation. For me, it's like, I'm going to travel to Philadelphia to go see the Army-Navy football game and I'm going to stay at the Red Roof Inn, right? I'm there. I just need a bed and then I'm on my way for the rest of my actual vacation. So all that being said, if you're interested in the reward chart, I would encourage you to check it out. Based on my understanding of it and what I've heard, things seem good, right? Generally, I feel like when we have situations like this, whether it's a merger or somebody is changing from banks, right? So Marriott's going from, say, Chase to Amex or whatever. People are always nervous about devaluations and how it's going to affect them. Based on what I've seen so far, and of course, I've let this settle for a number of months, things seem good. So take a look at it. Let me know your thoughts. Elite status. So basically it's, again, I think the theme here is simplification, right? One loyalty account, one award chart. And in this case, elite status, there's going to be 5 tiers. So, and I guess technically 6. So the first tier is that you're just a member, AKA you don't have status. With that, you get like the bare minimum, which is complimentary in-room internet access, member rates, and mobile check-in. But again, everybody gets that. So the actual tiers are Silver Elite, Gold Elite, Platinum Premier Elite, and then Platinum Premier Elite, and I guess it's called with Ambassador. And basically that last one, which is their highest tier, you have to stay 100 nights and spend $20,000. And of course, that gets you a slew of benefits. Honestly, reading out this benefit chart, I don't think is going to be great for a podcast. I'll have a link in the show notes if you want to check it out. And again, I don't ever really anticipate reaching any of these statuses outside of maybe I get it automatically with a credit card. But so I would encourage you to take a look at it if you think it's something you might be interested in. Things don't really start to get super interesting until I think, like in my opinion, they don't start to get super interesting until Platinum Elite, which is 50 nights a year, or you can get there with some credit card spend. And at that point, you start to get into like the more interesting 50% point bonuses, 4 p.m. late checkout, lounge access, guaranteed room type, annual choice benefit, etc. Silver is really not that much better than just being a member, but you're actually going to get that for free with a few credit cards, which we'll talk about. Gold is better still, but not that much better than Silver, except for the fact that you do get an enhanced room upgrade, but that doesn't include suites, right? Whereas Platinum and above, it does include suites. So be that as it may, if you're someone who, stays often in different hotels, this may be interesting to you. For me, it's not all that interesting. I'm generally more focused on the travel aspect itself as opposed to the bed that I sleep in the hotel. But you may find this to be compelling. Next, airline transfers. So one of the huge value propositions for the Starwood credit cards for years has been that you could take 20,000 Starwood points and transfer them to an airline partner, say Delta, and you'd end up with 25,000 Delta points, right? So, And then basically what that means is that with your Star One Amex, which earns 1 point per dollar, you're basically earning 1.25 Delta points, or Air Nippon, Air Italia, any of their transfer partners, you're earning effectively 1.25 per dollar. Now, the earning structure on the cards is different, which we'll talk about, but the transfer is staying. And that was one of the things I think people were nervous about. Is Marriott going to keep this benefit around? Turns out that the answer is yes. And it basically works exactly the way that it did before. Of course, the numbers are different because they're working on a different scale than Starwood was. But effectively now, when you transfer 60,000 of the new points, you'll end up with 25,000 airline points. Now, this is true for something like 42 of the 45 partners. Those other three, I think, they're still waiting to announce the transfer ratios. So, and I assume that we'll know what those are as August 1st approaches. And as far as the transfer time, so SPG, it was actually very slow to get your points from SPG to an airline partner, but that seems to be better with the new program. So Marriott has come out and said that they expect it to be a little bit faster, and it'll work more the way that the Marriott transfers currently do and less like the way SPG transfers currently do. So you can expect them to happen faster. And actually, the folks over at The Points Guy, who's a great website, I'm sure everybody who listens to this has heard of it, they actually did a little bit of a scientific investigation where they transferred points to a bunch of different partners and they tracked how long it took. I'll link to that article in the show notes. But by and large, things were 24 hours or less, and then some of them did take multiple days. So you'll want to keep that in mind if you're going to transfer some points. And if you are planning a transfer, you don't necessarily have to worry about doing it before or after August 1st because, like I said, the bonus is going to stay the same. And if anything, it'll transfer a little bit more quickly if you do wait. So those are all of what I would consider like sort of the high-level changes. But now we start to get into the credit cards. And of course, that's the most exciting thing for me because we have new products, some of which I may even sign up for on the show when they come out. One of them already did come out, and we're going to talk about why I'm not signing up for that. But first, let's talk about the new Amex card. So it hasn't yet been released, but Amex is going to have a Starwood. The name of it is kind of a mouthful. Starwood Preferred Guest Luxury Credit Card from American Express. That's the official long name. But basically, it's the SPG Luxury Card. So what are the perks? $100 global entry / TSA PreCheck credit, Priority Pass membership, which includes up to 2 guests, an annual free night award up to 50,000 points after the card renews. You get automatic gold status and the ability to earn platinum if you spend $75,000 in a calendar year. You're going to get Boingo Wi-Fi access. You're going to get a $300 Marriott on-property statement credit every year. And then the earning structure is 6x, so 6 points per dollar at participating Marriott hotels, 3x on restaurants and flights booked directly with airlines, 2x everywhere else. So let's break that down. The global entry TSA PreCheck, if you're someone who listens to this podcast or you've been sort of in this space for some time, chances are you've already taken advantage of that with another card. And I'm sure as I started reading off these benefits, you probably all thought of the Sapphire Reserve because these are some of the same benefits. Priority Pass membership, again, I have that as part of the Sapphire Reserve. I've never used it, but I don't know if I'm the best person to use it because a lot of my travel tends to be more domestic, less international, so that's probably why I haven't used it. And then when I do visit lounges, they tend to be either Amex Centurion or Delta Sky Lounge. The annual free night award up to 50,000 points. I mean, that's interesting. It's all going to come down to what sort of value you can get. So basically, if you get a standard redemption, 50,000 points is a category 6. If you can get off peak, 50,000 points is a category 7. And then if you get a peak, so if you use your free night during peak season, it's only a category 5. So basically, category 5, 6, and 7 is what you're going to get as far as a free night, depending on if you go off-peak, standard, and peak. I would say chances are you shouldn't count on off-peak redemptions because I'm expecting them to be sort of few and far between based on when you're going to want to use them. So realistically, your free night is going to get you one free night at either category 5 or 6. So that sort of in and of it. Oh, and then one thing I forgot to mention, the annual fee. And I'm sure astute listeners would have already sort of calculated these benefits and said to themselves, yeah, this is probably pretty expensive. And of course, it has the word luxury in the name, which if you put the word luxury in the name, you have to charge a lot of money. The annual fee for this card is $450, which puts it sort of in that space with like the Ritz-Carlton card, of course, the Sapphire Reserve, the Amex Platinum, etc. So the 50,000 points, if you can maximize it, which basically means you're going to get a category 7 off-peak reward. That probably in and of itself is a couple $100. So if you can maximize that benefit, I think you're off to the right start with this card. You're going to have to maximize a few of the other benefits to sort of break even and make it worth your while. I have some free nights coming up with my Marriott Rewards card that I signed up for on the podcast. And frankly, I don't expect to be able to use that at all. So again, it's, I plan on doing a few episodes about this. Whenever I tell people I have a podcast about credit cards or we start talking about financial products, the first thing that they always ask is, what's the best credit card? What card should I sign up for? And of course, I have cookie cutter answers because I do think that there are some cards that are just better than other ones. But at the end of the day, it all comes down to your spending habits, your redemption habits, and the things that you value, right? So my spending habits, redemption habits, and things that I value are probably very different from a lot of people. And that's totally fine. Your spending, redemption, and value habits are probably very different from everybody else as well. So as it pertains to this particular credit card, for instance, you can't be sort of lulled into a trance by the name or the metal or the design or some of the perks. If you don't think you can make use of it and really maximize its value, it's probably not the card for you. And that's totally fine because there's tons of other cards that you can choose to sign up for. So if you're someone who can make use of the annual free night and you can really maximize it, I think you're off to the races. The other perks, like the $300 Marriott on-property statement credit. Again, if you're someone who stays at a lot of Marriotts and you're going to spend some money there, that's probably a really good deal, right? Like if you can maximize that, your net annual fee is $150. Then you factor in the free night and basically the card is paid for itself. I personally know for a fact I would never be able to utilize the $300 at least year over year. Like maybe if I went there once, I could do it just as like to make like a point of it. But year over year, I know it's not something I'm going to be able to do. The automatic gold status, again, if you stay at a lot of Marriotts and you think you'll find value in some of the things I talked about or what you'll see on the status chart, go for it. The spending $75,000 to earn platinum status to me sounds crazy. And it's possible that I'm not looking at it correctly. So if you're someone who you see that and you're like, yeah, that's a pretty good deal, I would love to hear more as to why. But for my money, if I'm going to spend that much in a year, I'm going to do it on a card like the Delta Reserve, which is going to get me basically after $60,000 in spend, I'm going to get 30,000 MQMs, which is enough for silver status plus some. I'm going to earn an additional, it's like, what is it, like 60,000 Sky Miles, right? Like those are great bonuses for big spenders. And there are other cards which offer similar great bonuses for big spenders. 75 grand for platinum status to me doesn't make sense. If there were fewer tiers and that 75 got you to the maybe second highest total level, okay. But I don't know. I just don't see the value in it. The thing that's interesting about the hotel programs is that I think you see the benefits of the status if you use them a lot. Whereas with the airlines, even if you only get upgraded once, right, I think that's pretty valuable, right? Like even if you just get upgraded on 1 3-hour flight, I think that's pretty great. Whereas like because of the way that I tend to think about hotels, getting upgraded for one night, right? Like, if I get into a hotel at 9 p.m. and I'm leaving at 8 a.m. the next day and I get upgraded, it doesn't really matter to me, So that's somewhat tangential to the main point. But the bottom line is, I don't think spending $75,000 on this card is a good value proposition. And if you think it is, I'd love to hear from you, because maybe I'm thinking about it wrong. And if you're someone who has that money to spend and wants to maximize it and wants some advice, I'm happy to help if you want to email me. So the last thing we're going to talk about, well, not really. I don't know why I said that. So the earning structure for the Starwood Luxury Card is, like I said, 6x at Marriott, 3x at restaurants and flights booked directly with the airline, 2x everywhere else. That 2x everywhere else is actually pretty much the same for both of the new cards as well as pretty much all of the old cards. And that's kind of lame, and let's discuss why. So the current SPG Amex earns 1 point per dollar on every dollar spent, and then there's some bonuses that you can earn if you spend on property. But as a baseline, it's 1 point per dollar. That 1 point per dollar in the new system equates to 3 points. So effectively, if you have the SPG Amex and you're spending money on it today, $10 purchase is going to get you 30 points in the new program, right? With any of these new cards, as well as the card that you have after August 1st, that $10 purchase is now 20 points. So, from a spending and an earning perspective, I guess mainly from an earning perspective, these cards really aren't great, because they took what was really awesome about the Starwood card, which is, like I said, you could get the 1.25 airline miles per dollar spent, and they sort of nerfed it a little bit, because now, even though you're earning 2 points per dollar and it sounds like more, and I think that's sort of what this is, it's a bit of a psychology game. It sounds like it's more, but it's actually much less. It's actually 33% less. Why does my microphone keep falling? Need to upgrade my podcast setup. So yeah, it sounds like it's more, but it's actually less. And really, that's sort of the story with the other new card, which is the Chase Marriott Rewards Premier Plus. So this is sort of the big brother to the card that I have, which I signed up for on the podcast. It earns 6x on Marriott and SPG, 2x everywhere else. You get a free night reward, but only up to 35,000 points. You get automatic silver status, which, like I said, not super valuable. And then if you spend $35,000 in a calendar year, you get gold status. Again, to me, I don't think that that's valuable. If you really value gold status, I would just encourage you to sign up for the luxury card and pay for it. But I also think that if you're someone who will really be able to make use of it, and you're traveling a lot and you're staying in a lot of hotels, you'll probably get it anyway. So, think about all that when you're deciding which cards to sign up for. The one thing I will say about the Starwood card specifically is that typically in August is when Amex does historically speaking, in August, Amex has done large Starwood sign-up bonuses. And because this card's going to come out in August, I could see them doing something significant. So there's a chance, and of course, I think the way I've been talking about this card is that I don't like it and I'm not going to get it. I don't love it, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to get it. If the sign-up bonus is significant enough, I will sign up. And of course, the reason why is the same reason I signed up for that other Marriott card live on the podcast, which is the SPG Moments program. Now, I haven't seen really anything related to how the Moments program is going to work moving forward. My expectation is that very little, if anything, will change except for the point values. And again, the Moments program is the thing I talked about. That's how you get sweet tickets at Madison Square Garden. You can get a box at a Yankee game. There's all sorts of stuff. That's what I really like using these points for. I think Starwood does it better than anybody. Delta's actually doing a little bit better as of late, but I think Starwood has the best sort of VIP event experience program of any card issuer. Well, they're not really a card issuer per se, but you know what I mean. So if there's a significant sign-up bonus when this card releases, you can be assured that I'll probably do a podcast and sign up for it live on the show, just to try to bolster that balance, right? So after my current sign-up bonus is done, I should have about 150 or 160,000 Marriott points, which is probably in the new program enough for 1, maybe 2 redemptions in the moment program. And then, of course, my expectation is that with this luxury card, if they have a sign-up bonus of like less than 100,000, I think that's, I don't know, it's not lame, but I mean, I think they can afford to go at least 100,000 with the new card. So that's sort of my expectation for that. And of course, we'll see what happens. So stay tuned for that. We talked about the 2X. And then the last thing I want to touch on is this idea of upgrading from your current Marriott card to the new one. So if you actually go to the new Marriott card's website and you say like, oh, I currently have another Marriott card, they'll say, oh, do you want to upgrade? I would not encourage you to do that. I certainly am not going to do it. Basically, my plan is once I reach the sign-up bonus, chances are I'll probably cancel it. Right now, that new card has a 100,000 point sign-up bonus, so I'll probably cancel it and then look to try to get that later. Of course, Chase has their rules with 524 and whatnot, but I believe I'm far, far under that, as I think the only new card I've signed up for in the last year is that Marriott card, so I should have no problems with that. And that's basically it. I mean, I think we've talked about all the new cards, some of my thoughts on the new processes and plans. I'll have a bunch of links in the show notes because there's a lot of stuff that you're probably going to want to click on and look at more in depth, things like the elite status chart and the award chart and whatnot. So check those links out. Like I said, if you enjoy the show, I'd encourage you to leave a review. Check out the new website, pursuingpoints.com, for the new design. Let me know what you think. And as always, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can email me, peter@pursuingpoints.com, or you can go to the website and click on Contact Us. Like I said, I don't anticipate doing another episode for probably the next 2 weeks, but after that, I expect to be doing them sort of weekly. So I will see you then. I look forward to getting your feedback. Have a good day.